Today is the 15th of February 2020. It's 35 minutes past 5 in the evening over here in the UK. The goat in the box, often interpreted as a kid, as a child goat is called a kid. The kid in the box, kind of referencing kid in cages, giving us a reference to the immigration policy that has been in the news for the last couple of years. Also, the fact that it's happening down at the border gives us a possible reference to Texas. On the box we've got the stickman character and the dog. Just as a basic interpretation, that signals, security, some sort of force going forward in association with immigration, basically. So with the goat's head spinning round at this point in the video, I think we've got a reference to the same thing we see when the George Bush head spins round, or the blue character spins round, or the boy in the white dress above the mosque spins round. It all seems to be a reference to some sort of cyclonic event, or I can't really say entity, I don't really know what the word I'm looking for is, but something circular in its movement, which is often associated with hurricanes and with storms. And obviously we've got Storm Dennis over here in the UK at the moment. The wind is blowing. Obviously it's not really a hurricane, but it just gives another layer of interpretation to this video, where these events could possibly, some events could possibly be happening right now. If the spinning heads and bodies in this video gives us a reference to some sort of storm, it could be Storm Dennis. There could be plenty of others, but hey, we're on today, so let's look at today. We have the situation with Trump sending armed tactical forces to sanctuary cities, and I think that is another possible layer of connection to this video. We have a storm, we have armed tactical units being sent to sanctuary cities in association with the border patrol. Again, that border reference, all of that there. So let's move forward a little bit. In this video, we know that it's referencing 9/11. There's plenty to be talked about in this little frame here, but one that stands out very clearly is the $ and the snake in a ring form on this unseen character's hands. That gives us a connection to the Bush character, which also gives us a connection to Donald Trump. Now, on 9/11, 2001, when the 9/11 attacks happened, George Bush was in an elementary school, Emma E. Booker Elementary School in Florida, reading a book called My Pet Goat. And obviously at that time he was informed about the planes going into the towers, and we've all seen the video. In this animation, we have George Bush in a classroom talking to children, and it has that whole 9/11 reference to it. But this was obviously created several years after, 11 years after, released in 2012. So if there's anything for it to be saying about 9/11, it's not being direct. So we've summarized that it's potentially talking about a second 9/11. Now, at the moment, with the $ and the Bush character representing Donald Trump as well, and the connection to Florida and the school, that could be, again, another event that's happening today. Donald Trump is in Florida. He's going to be leaving Mar-a-Lago to attend his private residence for a finance dinner. And obviously finance is obviously to do with money, and money connects us to the dollar. So if we're looking at a situation where we have a storm brewing, tactical armed units being sent to sanctuary cities, Donald Trump in the right location, Florida, a connection to money in terms of finance, all of that is happening right now, today. So let's continue forward a little bit. He tap dances across the screen, and you guys, I put that video up, I think it was 2 days ago, where I referenced us back to a video I did in 2019. I did a partial breakdown of the tap dancing, which we believed could be Morse code, and if it is Morse code, I managed to get 4 letters out of it, which is SARS, which is SARS, which connects us to coronavirus, because SARS is a coronavirus, and now we have a coronavirus called COVID-19 currently taking center stage. So let's just do that again. We have a storm, circular motions, we have the armed tactical units in association with the border patrol, that's all in the beginning. We have the dollar sign with the ring, that's finance. We have the Bush character representing Donald Trump in Florida, which is where he is right now. We have the tap dancing, potentially suggesting the word SARS, which is a coronavirus, which we also have going on right now. We're also in a winter period, just about to, go into that springtime. Valentine's Day has just passed. Some of these things are just potential references to, what we're now seeing. So let's continue. Another thing is when the George Bush character spins his head round in that circular motion to indicate some sort of storm or hurricane, he's also still wearing the D dunce cap on his head, which again, the storm's name is Dennis, so it may again give us that reference to that particular storm, or this particular storm, the one that is raging outside my window right now. Let's continue. Obviously a reference that I'm looking out for, or something I'm looking out for, is this missile launch or something in association with a projectile, and potentially submarines. Maybe that unfolds today, maybe it doesn't, but the suggestion in this video is that these submarines move underneath a storm or a hurricane. Now if they're moving underneath this storm, for example, it may not be today that they launch, they could just be getting into position and something happens another day. Again, there may not be any submarines out there, but these are interpretations, so that's why I'm saying it. I should have stopped it there. Sorry, I was a bit slow. I'm just going to stop it on the eyebrow because, again, you guys know I've pointed this out before, the potential number 15 there, and again, that may be a 7. If that's the case, could be a time reference. That would be kind of around the time that Donald Trump is in this finance meeting at the private residence in Florida. So you can see there 7 p.m. is when that finance dinner starts. So that could be a potential reference to something taking place there. Obviously, if we have, I'll get to that later. Don't want to get too confused. So yes, Storm Dennis, I talked about, it's already claiming lives. Second body pulled from the sea near Kent, and that's up north from where I am in London. So the storm is, pretty serious. And again, just keeping an eye out, 65-foot waves recorded. That tsunami flood situation that I put up earlier today, I'm still looking out for. Obviously the storm's going to be with us over the weekend, so something I'm watching for. You can see these cars in these images, they're being kind of pushed around by flooding of water, obviously. Don't know why I said it like that. Talked about the coronavirus already, how that could potentially be connected to SARS, but in terms of the iPad Go 2 video, it's not just the tap dancing obviously in the video that may connect you to that interpretation. It's this boy here with the medication on the ground. There's that suggestion of something, some sort of illness being a part of this video, some sort of biological weapon, and it's possible that SARS was, COVID-19, the coronavirus, was generated or biologically engineered in a lab in China, maybe the United States, maybe the UK, and then released to the world to have this massive pandemic that's currently going on at the moment. And it's very interesting how they're responding to it. One of the things they say is that this virus can be transmitted through the eyes, and I wonder if that's why we get such a close-up of this boy's eyes. We've got all these markings around it, not to mention the bird that sits above this, what am I calling it, the left eye, if it's my from my view. or his right eye, if we're talking about his perspective. But you can see that bird just there. They've given the eyebrow to be the wing, and then they've given it like that. It's like a vulture with the hunched shoulders, waiting for death, basically. And this boy, at this point, seems to be close to death. The close-up of the eyes, the connection to coronavirus, the rumors of it being potentially transmitted, or being able to be transmitted through the eyes. For example, if you touch your eyes, the virus can enter through the area where your eyes are. And again, it may or may not be connected, but at the same time, we still have the situation with Iran. We haven't heard much about that in the news, but again, if something devastating were to happen somewhere, sometime, today, tomorrow, at any period, they've already lined up quite a few stories so they can blame Iran, blame it on their terrorist connections, or blame it on ISIS and then somehow connect that to Iran. Iran armed them or something like that. You know how it goes. The market's plunging again. If, for example, something were to take place at this finance meeting where Donald Trump is, then that would obviously have an effect on the market. Not to mention China and the coronavirus is having an effect on the market. Brexit is having an effect on the market. So there's a lot of potential for this whole market plunge to happen if one key event takes place. And I do believe it's in association with Donald Trump. He's kind of holding up the, I said holding up, inflating the US economy. And at the end of the day, if he's not there, you still got the trade deals with Canada and Mexico. That's not signed and gone through. It was a phase 1 signing with China. I'm not even sure if that's gone through. So if he's gone, you kind of go back to square one. Markets react, and all of those kind of things happen. And at the same time, you've then got what moves on from this, and the war coverage in the boys' eyes is the war planes looking like an attack in the Middle East somewhere. I say Iran, but it could be Syria, could be Iraq. There's many different targets that are spotted throughout the Middle East, as well as the retaliation that comes. There's a number 5 here with the 1 missile and the 5 missile. Again, that gives us another 15. 2 here, maybe that gives us a reference to February. Not really looking out for the dates at the moment, but that retaliation is a kind of an indication of preset targets. And Iran has already said, they've got plenty of targets around the Middle East, US bases, embassies, US aircraft carriers. So there's plenty of targets for, if it's not Iran, whoever it is, there's plenty of targets for them to go for. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We also see the man, which I believe is Donald Trump, closed mouth, eye, nose, looking upwards, the explosion coming out the back of the head. Again, that same reference throughout the video, showing some sort of attack from behind. That could be metaphorical, it may not be literal, but either way, it has some sort of connection to him, and it seems as if he's not. I mean, if this image is, correct, then it would have the appearance eyes closed, mouth closed, explosion at the back of the head. That would have an appearance of death. So then these things appear to take place afterwards, while, if that happened, I guess the United States government would be in complete turmoil, maybe not as able to respond, especially since, there's been a lot of resignations from every single department. I'm not even going to list them, but I was going to say, like, the DoD, for example, but from every department there's been a lot of resignations, and a lot of those key positions haven't been filled. So, in an emergency, there could be someone that is supposed to be there who knows what to do that's not, because that position hasn't yet been filled, which could obviously delay things. I'm not saying that the United States will be completely incapable of responding. That would require some sort of EMP or something, but it would be difficult, much more difficult than if everything was running smoothly and something like this happened. Back to news reports. I'm trying not to make this video long, but I want to cover everything. that I was looking at. The Hong Kong protests, of course, they're still going on with the coronavirus and the whole lockdown of basically mainland China. There's still that potential of, excuse me, a bit forward, a bit back. Is it forward or back? Can't remember. There's still that potential of China or Beijing going into Hong Kong to quell these protests and maybe put Hong Kong on lockdown during this quarantine time. So we see that with a Tiananmen style reference just here, tanks coming in. We believe that's China, although there's also an interpretation for North Korea crossing the DMZ into South Korea. Obviously North Korea and South Korea were doing the whole peace thing. Not much has been heard about that since everything collapsed with the negotiations and Donald Trump. But right here in the middle again, a potential number 15, 1, and then it's just breaking up now, but a 5 potentially, or a 2. Again, all of that could potentially go together. 215, February 15. I'm just saying, we have a lot of things event-wise taking place right now today. As I said, the storm, the tactical armed units from the Border Patrol, Trump in Florida, the finance meeting, the coronavirus, the Hong Kong protests still going on. So all of those things are taking place right now, and I'm assuming if nothing happens today, they'll still be taking place over the next couple of days. But as I say, 15th of February, we're halfway through the month. We have that number referenced multiple times throughout the video, and we have all of these events taking place at the same time. So it's a very high watch for me today, even though it's the most of the day has passed. It's now 5:52. I'm still on alert because, as I said, there's just many things in this video that we've interpreted before, which all appear to be happening at the moment. There always could be another storm to fill in the place. Coronavirus could go on for a while. So, as I say, it may not be today. But even, I just looked at that. Even the playlist I made a long time ago, I was going to fill it up with everything, all the videos that I made associated with February. But I only ended up putting 3 videos in there. But it's the only folder that I made with a month. So at the time I obviously thought it was important, and we're still in February right now. I have made previous videos on February 15th. February 14th, 2018 was the most interesting of all. But here we are, 2 years later, and there's so much going on. Again, that circular reference, that storm reference, the eye of the storm, I'm guessing, is what we're seeing when we see the missile come forward. Coming out of the eye, I don't know. Obviously, the eye would be the calmest place to travel if you were, for example, in a submarine. You might want to emerge in the eye. If you wanted to launch something, it would be the calmest place to launch something from. Hardly any wind in the eye. So again, that's just something that would make sense interpretation wise. I kind of feel like I want to stop it there, but I know there's just a little bit more for me to address. The US military is setting up quarantine bases across the United States. I'm not going to read the whole report, I'm just going to show you guys the map, so that you guys that live in the United States can actually see where some of these locations are, where they plan to quarantine people if they are diagnosed with the coronavirus. So Washington, 3 locations in California, 2 locations in Texas, 1 in Hawaii, 1 in Georgia, another in Colorado, another in Nebraska, Illinois, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Washington DC, and that is separate from all the Walmart closings. If we remember, what was it, 2 years ago, we was looking at all the Walmart closings that were happening across the United States, and at that time we had suspicions that those Walmarts would be used to house people. And this is obviously a very key point, because if these buildings are still empty, I have no idea if they are, but if they are still empty, then they could easily be set up and used as quarantine locations, and that would be on top of the military bases. So you're already exceeding, you're already coming close to over 100 locations across the United States where you could quarantine people, and that doesn't include the Sam's stores, which were also associated with Walmart. So 60 of those. So now you're over 100 stores, over 100 locations, big locations, where you can quarantine people across the United States, from Alaska to Puerto Rico to Hawaii. Every state, as far as I can tell, has at least one location where the government can quarantine people in the event that they claim the coronavirus becomes a pandemic. And obviously there's key things to watch out for in terms of the vaccine. You know, is this something connected to the next stage, the mark of the beast? You know, have to be cautious, but at the same time not foolish. So I think that's it. Yeah, with all of that said, you guys, today and moving forward, there's a lot to watch for. There's already a lot of things unfolding, as I've listed throughout this video, all the potential events that could be connected. Yes, Donald Trump is in Florida quite often, so it may not be significant that he's there today. There's storms all the time, so it may not be significant that we have a storm today. The coronavirus probably going to be around for months, if not years, so it may not be important today. But because all of these things are happening today, and the number 15 is so prevalent throughout this video, throughout this video, just gotta wait forward, I would say just to keep watch. I'm not instructing people to go and grab their bags and head for the hills, but just to keep watch, because as far as I can see, a lot of these events are currently in play, and some of them we've seen already. I do strongly believe the church collapse at the end is a Notre Dame reference. That's it, you guys. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.